Today we're going to be talking about how to experience the presence of the Most High God in your body. We're going to talk about how the human body experiences the power, the presence, the perfection of the Most High God. Have you ever felt the wind, seen gamma radiation? Have you ever seen electricity? The answer to all of these, I can say unequivocally, is no. You've never seen gamma radiation, you've never seen electricity, you've never seen wind. Now, there are instruments that humans have designed that translate these forces into visual imagery so that we can perceive these forces. But these forces are real. I can tell you for a fact, if you're exposed to enough gamma radiation, you will definitely know the impacts and the effects on your body. So today we're going to talk about the substrate of the reality, the Most High God, the consciousness, the source of consciousness that is actually the basis of reality. How you can connect with it, how you can feel and perceive it, and let you know that your body actually is a channel, a medium of this powerful, infinite, all-knowing, ever-present source that has picked and chosen you. So, God is not a sky phantom. God is a real force, pulsing through reality. God is the very substrate of reality. So by the end of today's video, we're going to talk about some misconceptions about how to experience God, what God's experience is and experience of God actually is. Why nobody, like so many people experience God every day, hear God every day, feel God every day, see God every day, in God's original real form. I mean, all of this that we're seeing is God. And it's stupid to say that. I hate saying that God is everywhere, God is everything, God is in it. Because that's stupid. That's so dumb. And so if God is everything, let me go talk to that tree and ask the tree to pay my bills this month. Like, we need to have a real applicable, to see miracles and to experience the enchantment, the magic of life. We have to know God and know God's voice as it speaks to us here and now. And that's my entire purpose. I create the space where God's chosen are able to hear God's voice. I create the space where God speaks to his chosen. And so that's what this is all about. The apex Christian journey, the apex human journey, geopolitical Christianity is all about that. So by the end of today's video, you'll know how your body recognizes God, the most high God, not all the other little tiny gods that don't matter. How to experience that, how to activate this experience, and how your different body parts experience God. But first of all, let's start off with misconceptions. So we've been told by Hollywood, by the church, by religion, by atheists, by all of this, that God is going to come with some big booming voice, thunders, storms. God's going to be open, and God's going to come through our visual, auditory perception. And our eyes can only perceive a tiny sliver of the light that exists. And so there are beings, there are worlds, there are entire universes, cosmic phenomenon that we're experiencing every day, that we're perceiving every day. That we're not perceiving with our eyes, but we're experiencing every day and we're walking through every day. And we do not have a basis for that. And so we don't recognize it. And because everybody in society tells you you're crazy if you see things that aren't there, well, then we just shut it all out. And so there are a lot of misconceptions about what God actually is. And this is a deliberate kind of attack of the enemy. And I don't want to give the enemy much power because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Because when you are elevated, when you are chosen, when you are apex, you are able to pick up on these things. So it's not a big issue. But there are a lot of misconceptions about what God actually is and how to hear God's voice. And so the booming voice, the Olympian gods, the thunderbolts, all of this stuff, those are natural phenomena, okay? But the presence and power of God is what's behind it. And in the story of Elijah on Mount Carmel, there was an earthquake, there was a storm, there was all these things happening. All of these phenomena. But God's power, God's true power, God's subtle power was not in any of it. Because God is the substrate of that. God is the basis from which that comes. That's, the waves on the top of the sea. That's nothing. The real power is in the depths of the ocean. And that's where we find God, in the stillness. And so consider the following. Thoughts are not perceptible, but they impact your entire reality. They allow you to perceive and see things that may or may not be there. You can actually see something that's physically not present. You can assume things about people that are not true based on what you're thinking. So your thinking can actually decide your reality, but you can't see your thoughts. No one knows what a thought is. Scientists don't even know what thoughts are. They don't even know where they come from. They know they don't originate in the brain. I mean, some like entry-level neurologists think thoughts originate in the brain, and that's a cute narrative, but it's not reality. Thoughts exist within, they come from some place, and we don't actually know yet. I know. I can say that. But people, the chosen people know. I mean, like we, apex humans know that thoughts come from a level of reality that's beyond this. Okay, we know that it comes from something more, much higher, I guess is the best way to describe it. Higher is a directional term, but that's the best term I can use using the English language. Okay, but it's not like from the sky. It's not higher in that way. All right, so consider that you cannot see your thoughts, but they control your entire reality. You cannot see gamma radiation, okay? You cannot see wind. You can see the impacts of wind, but you cannot see wind. There's something moving that tree over there, but you cannot see it. You can only see what it stirs up and what it impacts. You cannot see radio frequencies. You cannot see electricity. A lot of people think you can. Oh, I saw electricity. Those two lines, they arced and the tree caught on fire. And there's this big lightning bolt. No, that's not electricity. That's the interaction between high voltage and the atmosphere, the particles in the atmosphere that may be charged or not charged. That's light. Those are photons that might be excited because of the interaction between electricity and the field. But you cannot see electricity. It's absolutely invisible. It's not perceptible by the eyes. Solar rays, you can't see them, but I can tell you, if we have a coronal mass ejection, everything on life, just about everything on Earth is going to be significantly impacted by this blast of solar rays. UV radiation, UV light, ultraviolet light, we can't see that. We have instruments that turn ultraviolet light into colors that we can see with our eyes, but we can't see ultraviolet light. Electromagnetic frequencies, another thing you can't see. But I can tell you, electromagnetic frequency could disintegrate the building that's in front of me if it's utilized properly. Also emotions. You can feel pain in your heart, but can you put something on it? Again, they're cardiologists, they're endocrinologists and neurologists that'll tell you, yes, you can see emotions because the cortisol is a chemical in the body, and then it comes through, and then you feel a certain emotion, whether it's stress because of cortisol or adrenaline, which gets you excited. No. You feel those emotions before those hormones release. And again, there are studies that show that the hormones release first, and then the brain reacts, the pituitary gland does all these things. But again, how is it that a person could be sitting on a bench being watched by a predator or a dangerous person, and they can perceive it before it happens? Again, emotions are things that we cannot see, but they do impact our reality. So, all of these things I just described are real, they're powerful, and they change reality, they impact reality. But they exist. And you have to pardon me. That's a little hull from one of my hemp seeds. So we don't deny the existence of emotions, UV radiation, electricity, all of that. But they do exist. And so does the Most High God. Now, the Most High God's existence is irrelevant. Like, you don't have to go and fight and find it out and prove it to yourself. You just wake up every day and experience reality and know that you exist. And by the way, if you're a scenery person, you don't even know you exist. You don't have the capability to even perceive that. But children of the Most High God, the exceptional apex humans, the chosen ones, we do know we exist. And the fact that we know we exist is indication that God exists. And I know it sounds weird, but we'll get right into it. All right. So, consider the following. A ton of people are going to watch this later, but for some reason nobody's in here now. So anyway, the body was not designed to see God. I mean, our eyes are not designed. The receptors in the eyes are not designed to experience more than what keeps us physically alive. That's about it. So when we're little children, our eyes function a little differently, and Eyes are just, they're part of our neurology. They're actually extensions of the brain. They're not, so the brain, the central nervous system, the eyes are just a protrusion. They're actually parts of your brain that are protruding out and perceiving the world. They're taking, your eyes are feeling reality the way that your hands do, but they are feeling reality at a distance, if that makes sense. And so your eyes are actually just parts of your brain, the one part of your brain that's sticking out of your body. Your skin is also a part of your central nervous system, but it's been called the integumentary system, but anyway, I digress. So the body was not actually designed to know God and see God in the way that the church and all these other entities and organizations have described God. And so we have to break away from that brainwashing. There is no such thing as a sky phantom God. There's no such thing as an Olympian God, like these Zeus type titans that lived on Mount Olympus. Those guys are extinct. We killed them off. They don't matter anymore. They're irrelevant. The real God, the true God, the one that's behind reality, the basis of reality, that God does exist, and that God is undeniable when you actually know how to experience it. And so the substrate of reality is a profound force that actually creates and dissolves all aspects of the universe and the cosmos. The God is the unmoved mover and the source of consciousness. God is the conscious source of consciousness. And so how we experience God, and I'm going to make sure I don't go too deep on this because it gets extremely esoteric and it becomes something that nobody understands. Even though it makes sense, the words that I'm using make sense because of the syntax. It actually goes together. But again, I have to be talking to another race of humans to even click with people on this. But we'll do what we can here while we're here. Anyway, so how we experience God is critical, and it is unique to our connection with God. God speaks to all of us different ways. God speaks to some people mostly through their bodies, some through their minds, some through their hearts. But you can expand that mode of communication so that you can perceive more of what God is sharing with you. God speaks to everyone all the time. My dad says this all the time. God speaks to everyone all the time. The question is, who's listening? So, God is speaking right now. Are you listening? All right, so the church teaches us to know God in our brains and in our heads, but not so much in our bodies. Maybe our brains, our hearts, and our heads. Or I should say our brains and our hearts. Let's do that. Our brains and hearts, because our heads are. But the church teaches us to think about God, to intellectualize God, and then to emote God. Oh Lord, I love you. You saved me. You came and da 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 da, right? You came and delivered me, and I feel so good about it. Oh, my heart is lifted up to you, God, right? And then the philosopher is God is like, even what I've said in this video is a little philosophical, it's intellectual, but God is beyond man's knowing. And then they go on to the philosophical thing. But that doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, if you're paying bills, if you're dying from a disease, or you want to help, or you want to have a relationship or something like that, that means nothing to you. Well, I felt God in church. Now I leave the church, I still got those bills. I felt God in the church, but I still don't have a relationship that fulfills me. Whatever it is, I'm still working the 9 to 5 that I don't love, whatever, right? And so a real relationship with God means that you are hearing God's guidance. You're trusting that because you know it. And so today, let's get into how you can experience that creative force, the substrate of reality itself through your body. So the body, so God speaks through everything, right? I mean, but it's important for you to know how God speaks to you and what modes or mechanisms God is using to speak to you specifically. And so there are people who hear God's voice through their emotional experience. They'll hear a song and they feel elevated and lifted up high to the presence of God. They literally feel it transcend the physical reality. And then there are other people that have maybe a more intellectual experience. They read some philosophical treatise on the book of Mark, and they just feel the presence of God, and they cannot describe it, but they are uplifted and transcended. And then there are people that experience God through sexual intercourse. I can say that because nobody's here, and there are no kids, theoretically. I'll make sure this is an 18-plus video. And so some people experience God through their sexual intercourse. They actually do. I mean, when I was doing my study back in 2018 through 20, that was something that was very interesting. Lots of Christians felt that they experienced the presence of God in their sexual interactions with their long-term spouses, marriage partners, these sorts of things. There were some that reported feeling the presence of God in their solo sexual experiences, and others said they experienced the presence of God without a sexual experience, but a sexual-like experience, in which, like Teresa of Avila, where there was you could call it sexual adjacent experience because of the symbolism, being pierced by a spear and all these other like things that she experienced. And it was orgasmic, but it was not copulative, if that makes sense. You know, it was not intercourse of body, but it was sexual and transcendent in an orgasmic way. And I can tell you personally, I'm going to make sure this is 18 plus. I can say whatever I want here, for the most part. I have had many experiences of God in orgasm or in what people might refer to as sexual experience. I've had like a 6-hour orgasmic experience with God, consistent, like 5 to 6 hours long, beyond words. And when I say orgasm, I'm talking about original creative energy force. I'm not talking about genital expression or genital releasing. I'm not talking about that. It is a transcendent, out-of-body, blissful, euphoric, ecstatic experience that is beyond words. Beyond words. There are no words to describe it. I've had that under the influence of substances, but I've also had that multiple times just as a human. Just being alive, looking at the sun, or seeing the flowers, or experiencing God's presence in nature. Sometimes in the presence of people I love dearly, having the hug from a loved one. And it's, again, it's orgasmic, but it's not sensually copulative intercourse orgasm. It's you call it a headgasm. I probably should use that word. Anyway, since no one is here, I'm going to redo this video. No, I'm not. I'm not going to waste my time on that. I'm just going to release it. You guys will watch it. So there was a headgasm, a braingasm, a spiritgasm, a mindgasm, you can call that. And it was beyond all words. That's why I practice celibacy time to time, and I can do that because I know what real transcendent connection to the divine source is. And I've known that before I ever had experimented with substances or did mind hacking or biohacking or anything like that. And so we're going to get into how you can do that. Okay? So God can be felt in the creative energy centers of the body. That is definitely the brain, specifically what they refer to as the third eye, pineal gland. You can activate that through holotropic breathing, through Wim Hof method even, through deep diaphragmatic breathing and certain autonomic nervous system manipulating techniques, which you can learn on your own. By the way, check out the Apex Prayer course because it actually has a small example of that. That's enough to get you started. But if you really want to go deeper, reach out or something like that. I'm not really letting people reach me that much because there are other things that I'm building and doing right now. So another way that you can experience God, another body part you can use to experience God other than the brain, your entire body is your brain basically, but is your heart. And the heart experience is probably because you do have neural tissue in your heart, your sinoatrial node, and the other one, SANNA node. They're both actual brain tissue that's in your heart. You can experience, and that is probably, from what I've heard and read in studies, and it's been years since I read the studies, but the heart creates an electromagnetic field around the body that's so much stronger than that which is created by the brain. Also, you can experience God in your gut. There are more serotonin receptors in your gut than there are in your brain. And we think of the brain as where all the serotonin uptake, reuptake, all that stuff takes place in the synapses in the brain and all that stuff. It does, but not on the level it does in the gut. So experiencing that gut intuition, that's God speaking to you. Experiencing that open-hearted love and pleasure, that's God speaking to you. Experiencing that thought that just fixes everything, that gives you the peace of mind, that's God. Also in your hands, your ability to create, your ability to touch, to feel, to manipulate, to change things, that is experiencing the presence of God. And of course, and obviously, in the procreative systems of the body. The erogenous zones are extensions of the procreative systems in the body. What do I mean by procreative systems? Procreative systems are the genitalia and the mammary glands for females who help children with that. I mean, they feed children through their breasts. All right, but I'm specifically speaking of the regenerative systems, the regenerative cells and tissues in the body, the testicles, the prostate, the uterus, and all of the other anatomical portions of the body that are associated with those, the vagina, the penis. These are the creative centers of the body, and they are actually an avenue to experience God. Now, a lot of people recoil at this because the church has castrated humanity. The church has told you, sex is bad, God doesn't want you to do it, stay away from it. And then you have priests diddling children, right? And then you have, people going crazy, like in Islam, because they haven't been laid. I can tell you, every single one of those suicide bombers, all they had to do was go to a harlot for a night or two, and they would have been like, you know what? I think God wants me to live here. How about you do it, Ahmed? I know, that's whatever. But you get what I'm saying, right? So the procreative systems of the body were designed that way. And again, the ancillary parts like the erogenous zones. And again, erogenous zones are different for every different human. So for some people, an erogenous zone is their lips, are their lips. An erogenous zone may be your ears, it may be your neck, it may be other parts of the body, which I won't go into details, but everyone has their own type of erogenous zones, and they do align with certain astronumerological structures or systems like signs. Pardon me if this is way too heady. I know we have a lot of children and when I mean children, I'm talking about teenagers that watch my stuff, and sometimes it just goes, I mean, it does that to adults. But anyway, if you're getting what I'm saying, you're apex, so just subscribe and follow, and all this stuff will be useful to you. Most of it, I'll say 99% of it is going to be useful. I don't know what percentage is going to serve you. But anyway, so the erogenous zones and the procreative centers of the body and the erogenous zones are vessels and avenues by which you can experience God. Now, there are certain practices that you can do. Again, I teach that in one of my courses, but it's very, very closed and very, very secretive. And I specifically teach it to men, how you can create using your procreative systems, because everything is analogous. The world is a mirror of you. And if you can utilize I'm saying procreative systems, so I'm not trying to use terminology that'll cause kids to go, oh, let me look it up. Procreative system, you're not going to find anything that's going to be inappropriate. So I leave that out. I try not to use terms that are going to have teenagers go, oh, I don't know what that is, let me look it up. And then they go and get all these terrible, awful images, because I think some of that stuff online is just terrible. It's useless. It's god awful. But some of it is useful. Anyway, there's videos about that in my channel. Look them up. So anyway, let's get to the end here. So how do you access God using these, the brain, the heart, the hands, the erogenous zones, and the procreative systems? Is pretty simple. You already know this, by the way, because you know it. When you feel the bliss and the pleasure and the joy of God's presence, hey, Two Duels, what's up? How's it going? How's it doing? How's it going, man? I'm finishing up this one, and I was surprised that nobody joined because usually it gets popping and lots of things are happening. But it may be the way that I set this one up, so it's probably that. How's everything going? Two Duels. And I'll just read it once you drop it. All right, so how do you experience God through your body? Is through elation. Whenever you feel your spirit rise so much that you feel like you're floating. Sometimes you'll feel a lightness in your head, a lightness in your heart. Maybe you had worries. You'll notice that you feel light, enlightened, delighted, lighthearted. It's all about lifting you up. So when you feel elation, you feel uplifted, that's God. That's God's presence. Orgasm is one of the ways that you experience God in this world. And again, the church has taught us a lot of inconsistencies. about God's presence. God is real. God is joy. God is pleasure. God is upliftment. Read the Song of Solomon, for God's sakes. It's the only X-rated book in the Bible. It really is. So if you just read that, you realize that God is not weird about sex. It's the church. It's mainstream Christianity. So anyway, it's going good. Been $2 for YouTube. Good. Take as many breaks from YouTube as you possibly can, man. I just do it because I love putting content out, and I've streamlined my content to only give me what uplifts my soul. I cannot stand seeing hot little girls half naked and things, so I don't get any of that, fortunately. My YouTube is locked. I don't get any of that. I get like chosen one videos, as you can probably tell by my content recently. I get a lot of like good music. I love EDM, so I get a lot of suggestions for that. So good job, man. Stay off the YouTubes if you can. If it's not serving you, stay off of it. All right. And I know I should be telling you to stay on it and watch it. No, don't watch this content if YouTube in general is tearing your life down. God will speak to you through all kinds of means. I'm not the only one. All right. So anyway, yeah, Tudor say, may God help them and keep them away from them posting that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know. It's really, I was going to say it's tragic how young women think that their bodies matter. And it's a big psyop. I mean, it's because a lot of men are kind of visually directed. And so when they see a woman's body, they go like a dog, or an ape, and I get it. I love women's bodies. I think God did such a good job with them. But if I'm looking at a woman and all I see is a body, I lost interest immediately. Like I'll talk. That's why when I see attractive, when my body tells me she's hot, go talk to her. I just go and talk to her. And then the moment she opens her mouth, and if stupidity falls out, I go, no interest. Walk away. I immediately walk away. There's no interest. So yeah, that little monkey. I like that. So yeah, man. Yeah. But anyway, man, I appreciate you joining. So how do we feel God and experience God is through elation, when you're feeling lighthearted and uplifted, also through orgasm. The church has taught us that orgasm. And by the way, a lot of people don't know what orgasm is. And so I'm going to explain it here because there are a lot of misconceptions about it. Because I've actually had, and pardon me, Toodles, if you're young for this, just jump to another place. This is an adult content. I'm about to say something adult related. So I'm going to give you a chance to jump off if you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's go. All right. So orgasm is not ejaculation. Let's make that clear. A lot of people think that orgasm ejaculation. It's not. I mean, I've taken again, my research background was in sexuality. I took multiple courses in nursing, even graduate nursing courses in sexuality, and graduate courses when I was doing mental health counseling in sexuality and sexual anatomy and things like that. And I used to teach anatomy. You can stimulate ejaculation without orgasm. You can, and we do it to cattle all the time so that we can breed more calves. That's just what we do. All right. And there are ways to do it. I won't go into the details of it, but you can stimulate ejaculation without orgasm. Okay. It's not as much of a pleasurable experience, but orgasm is beyond the word org. It goes back to original, organization. It refers to like the life force, the original, right? The original origins, okay, of things. It is the substrate of reality. Orgasm, origins, it all comes from the same. It's describing God. God is the orgasm. God is the origin. God is the organization. Notice the prefix, org, is there. Orgone. Wilhelm Reich spoke about that. Orgone energies. Let's see what Toodles has to say. I try to stay away from that stuff because even though I'm a teen, my parents are strict about that stuff, so I stay away from it. Good. Stay away from it, and they're right about it. But don't judge it and think that it's bad. I know I described it as bad and terrible just because girls are selling themselves based on their body, and they're not developing the most important part, which is their spirit, their mind, and their divine connection to God. I mean, so yeah. But I shouldn't disparage sexuality. A lot of parents do because they don't want you to get tangled up early. So do stay away from it because it is a divine force. It's like you have a nuclear bomb and you're 5 years old. I'm not talking about 5. Let's say you're a teenager with a nuclear bomb, basically, because your sexuality can create worlds and it can destroy yours. So just be aware of that. And that's primarily why parents try to keep kids from it, because our society has crippled you, unfortunately. By the age of 13, you should almost be intellectually, socially mature. But most humans in our societies aren't intellectually or emotionally mature until 25. So that's a 12-year gap. And that's not good. It's not good enough. By 13, you should be able to go out there, pursue your passion, build an industry for yourself, or build a revenue stream for yourself. But in our society, we don't allow that. You know, we keep children much longer than they should be. So anyway, I digress. So the word organism, orgasm, original, they all have the same prefix that refers to origins, and all of that. So when you have a true orgasm, again, it's not the release of bodily fluids associated with making more humans. It is the full body electromagnetic. It's a release, but it's a full body electromagnetic experience. Multiple systems come online when you have an orgasm, and that's why people feel like they leave their body. Most women have not had orgasms, unfortunately. Most men have had something close to an orgasm, but it's not that. When you have an orgasm, it's a spiritual experience. It actually is. And so there's that, and then you're experiencing the power of God. But because the church has told us that sex is bad and dirty and evil, and that orgasms are of the devil or something like that. I don't know what the church teaches, because I've cleansed my mind of that malarkey. But because the church teaches that malarkey, people don't realize they're meeting God every time they orgasm. Real orgasm. Not talking about ejaculation. Okay? Big difference. When you feel satisfaction with your life, that's the presence of God. When you feel satisfaction in your life, when you put something together and it succeeds and you feel pride and joy, a pure pride and joy, that's the presence of God. And that is, and I do this because of my teeth, but that is the creative force shining itself back to you and saying, well done, thou good and faithful servant. God's first command, and probably the only, I think that's the only command in the Bible, legitimate command from an esoteric perspective, was be fruitful and multiply. And when Jesus came, he said, preach the gospel into all the world and baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It's the same thing. He's saying, go out into the world and reproduce, make more, create, expand, grow. Get out there and stir up the pot and produce something new. And that is a law of God. That's an actual law. Okay? So if you're not producing what you want, you're producing what you don't want, ultimately. And so getting back to it, in order to experience the presence of God, you have to get beyond the church conditioning. We have to get into understanding the deepest and highest pleasures are where we find God. And that is in elation, that is in satisfaction, that is in joy, pride, and that is in orgasm. That's actually an orgasm. So make sure you check out the book, Hey God, Wake the Fuck Up. That's my first profanity word for the whole video. And then check out the Apex Prayer course. And by the way, this is another thing I should have pointed out early. Drugs do not work sustainably to get you to God. So stay away from drugs. I know too many people that go the drug route and they think, I saw God because I ate mushrooms. Okay. How does that translate into now? How does that translate into today? Can you experience God a month after your mushroom experience and then consistently do that every day afterwards? If you can't, stay off the mushrooms. Get into God's word. Maybe pray and meditate a little bit. And put the mushrooms down. It's a crutch. If you're an apex human. Now, if you're a gummy worm, take all the mushrooms you want. That's the only way you're going to experience God anyway. So keep taking the mushrooms. Excuse me. I shouldn't say that. Don't take mushrooms. It's illegal. But I'm saying don't take mushrooms if you're apex, if that's your only way to find God. I'm going to put it that way. I'm in a place where it's decriminalized, so I think I'm okay to say that. So that's what I got to say about that. Drugs do not work. But let me say this about drugs. They do things that activate and bring your body online in a way that it's like an ancillary. Nobody uses that word. Nobody uses that word. Let's use another one. It's a drugs are a shortcut that doesn't work. They're the rubber band effect. Stay away from it. Just like ejaculation is not orgasm, drugs are not a way to experience God. They feel kind of like it because they feel really good and you feel temporary elation. But after that, you come so far down, you got to go back and get your drug and get your high and then feel God again. You don't need that. All right? Find God through other means. And I can say that as a person who is a psychonaut. I love psychedelics and things like that, and they're great. But I take them in a specific way that, and I take long breaks. It's just I take it in a way that allows me not to develop a dependence. And I've seen too many people become dependent on psychedelic substances because that's where they find God. They can't find God sitting in a car in the middle of a parking lot, just after drinking a smoothie, you know? So we can all do that as apex humans, as children of the Most High God. And that's what I have to say about that. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Well, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Ugh. I was conditioned to say like, share, subscribe, put a comment down below. I don't care what you do. Do what you do. If this serves you, show some love. If not, go somewhere else. All right. What are we talking about today? I was talking about how to experience God in your body. And I will post this video later. K-pop is life 17. I can sum it up. I didn't sum it up, so I'll sum it up real quickly. So, shortly, God is like gamma radiation, electricity, electromagnetic frequencies, solar stuff, emotions, thoughts. You can't see God with your eyes because the eyes were not designed to perceive that level of reality. The eyes can only pick up on a certain wavelength of light, and anything outside of that, the eyes are not going to perceive, and the body has evolved to ignore. And so there are entire universes, entire civilizations that we're engaging every single day that we don't see or perceive because there's no immediate need to do so. And so I was just talking about basically how you can access God, how you can experience God through your body, through your physical senses. And some of the ways you can do that is through your brain, heart, hands, procreative systems, and your erogenous zones. So we talked about how orgasm is actually a pathway to God, elation, and satisfaction. Satisfaction from creating something that other people benefit from. Elation from overcoming a challenge that was always a challenge for you. And true orgasm. And I distinguish between orgasm and ejaculation. Again, I hope you're not too young to hear that. But I did put a warning earlier in the video. I probably should have warned you, depending on your age. I don't know if you're a minor or not, so pardon me on that. People, and again, I'm going to say something that is related to sexuality. If you're a minor and this is not for you, I'm just summing the video up so you can go somewhere else and you can just shut it off after after 20 minutes. Because I think I started talking about it at 20 minutes. So getting back to it, orgasm is an electromagnetic pulse that's produced by your body. And it's kind of like a jolt of light, electromagnetic light that shoots out of you. And that's why it's so transcendent, because your consciousness might follow that trail of light out of your body. And they call in French le petit mort, I think that's what they call it, the little death, because it is a way of leaving your body. It's a transcendent experience. So when people ejaculate, they think they're having an orgasm because we've been castrated by the church and by the organized religion structures. But that is not orgasm. Orgasm is full body, transcendent, out of this world experience. Ejaculation feels great to men and women, but it's not orgasm. And so I've had both. I've had multiples of both. And that was an awareness that came to me, like what I experienced in my sexual interactions didn't touch real orgasm. Real orgasm is something that really takes you somewhere else, takes you to another level of being, beyond this world. And when you come back down from it, you love everyone, you feel excited and creative, and you also don't have to clean up a mess. Let me put it that way. I should have said that. I should have said that. But it's when you really feel the presence of God. People are going to get this later. They'll understand and appreciate it in 20 years when everybody catches up with me. But we talked about that. You can experience God through your body, through your heart, through your emotions, through all these things. And you don't have to just be sitting in a church going, oh, holy, holy, shamoly, boly, babalooba juba. Like, that's some weirdness. That's psycho, right? And that's why you have a lot of people that go crazy. I mean, they think, oh, I need to hear God, and they hear a voice in their head, burn the city down. And then they go and try and do it, and they get put in jail in a happy house, which is where they belong. But that's not how God speaks to you. God speaks to you through everyday experiences that are real. When you create something that other people appreciate, you feel this joy welling up in your heart, that's God. When you create something with your hands and it feels amazing to you, that's God. Again, when you're in a deep, beautiful, connective experience with a person that you trust and a person that doesn't mean you harm, that's God. Okay, I won't, again, I already described the experience, but let's go into it. Love watching your lives. Thank you. They love watching your lives. But this one is not for me because I personally believe sexual activity outside of marriage is a sin. So you have contracted the contamination of mind. All right. But I'll for sure be back for the next one. And I'll address that. You can please feel free to leave. I will address that one. That is a huge lie that the church has. Again, the church has castrated humanity. And that's why we have an overpopulation problem in cities. Not in the world, but the church has done a number on humanity, teaching that sex outside of marriage is a sin. First of all, define marriage. Is that when you go to the courthouse and get a paper that says you have a marriage certificate, and then you go to a church and have a fake ceremony with a bunch of people you don't like and people don't know, who people you want to impress that don't even know you? Is that marriage? Or is it when God finds someone for you and says, this is your other part? This is Jesus said, a man shall leave his mother and cleave to his wife, and the twain shall become one flesh. What was Adam and Eve referred to in the Bible? They were referred to as Adam. In Genesis 1, if I'm not mistaken. No, Genesis 3:6, I believe. It says, God created them, man and woman created he them, and called them Adam. And so when you unite with another person, first, the uniting doesn't take place in the sexual act. It actually takes place in the mind and the spirit. And so God calls you to someone, you feel that spark, and you can go for it. You don't have to have sex, but you can go for it and connect on that level. Sexuality and sexual experience is not just smashing bodies together. Sexual experience is sharing energetic frequencies. So that's why Jesus said, if a man looks at a woman and lusts after her, he has committed adultery. He has committed the sin of adultery. And again, all of it's been misinterpreted, but Jesus is talking about a form of idolatry that denies God's first commandment to humanity, which is be fruitful and multiply. If you're just looking at someone and lusting, you're not being fruitful and you're not multiplying. You're not creating new things, you're not creating new relationships, you're not creating more life. And that is an abomination. That is a curse to God. But the church, because it's an organization, it's satanic in its very nature because it is yeah, there's the word, I talked about that earlier. But organizations, right? It's about putting things, the way that the church has used it, is about putting things into a tiny box so that you can control it. Okay? And that is set up by man. That was not set up by God. God said, be fruitful and multiply. That is a law. It's also a command. What do the trees do? One tree can produce thousands of trees. What do the birds and the bees and the animals do? They reproduce after their kind. They follow God's law. They obey God's commands. Humans are the only ones that got it twisted. And so do the birds marry each other? I mean, there are birds that will find a spouse and stay with that one for the rest of their life. There are animals that do that. But humans are a unique and beautiful thing. God, throughout the Bible, has examples of his chosen ones who had multiple husbands, multiple wives, multiple lovers. Solomon, David, Abraham, Those are the men. Let's talk about the women. Ruth, Mary Magdalene, the woman at the well. Let's see who else. Um, and these were the greatest women. Esther, she only had, I think she only married the king. She only married the king, um, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't read Esther in a while, so pardon me on that. So that's that. Anyway, like again, it's a different perspective, it's the human perspective. So pardon me on that. All right. Okay. So I don't know why I'm still watching. LOL. I'm just really curious about your opinion, and you talk very well, so I can't leave. And also, K-pop is life. Don't take my perspective for it. I mean, this is an apex human geopolitical Christian perspective. It is not for everybody. And I'm not saying leave because you don't agree with or it doesn't land for you. If it doesn't land for you, it's perfectly fine. God may not be calling you to this, but I'm sharing with you something that is objectively true as I have been able to observe it. Growing up as a child, I saw many things that were BS, which is bad spirituality, and I just allowed it to happen. I was just like, okay, well, I'm smaller than them and they could kill me, so let me just go with what they're saying. And this is the church, this is people, this is society, this is people that were bigger than me. That's every child's brain thinks that. It's not conscious, but that's just how smaller beings think when they see bigger beings. That can kill me. Let me do what it tells me to do, or let me follow it and become powerful like it. And so I saw a lot of things that were not empirically verifiable. And if we can look in the world and the world can have a say where God doesn't, then that means the world is greater than God. And I've never believed that the world was greater than God. When I did, excuse me, there are times, I'll take that back. There were times when I did believe the world was greater than God, and that's when I lost my way. That's when I was a Luciferian. That was when I was a Satanist. Well, I wasn't a Satanist, but I was almost a Satanist, right? But when you realize God is the greatest, God is truly the power behind all of this, then you say, oh, well, God wasn't making a mistake. All right. K-Pop is Life says, did you grow up Apex Christian? No. I grew up Adventist Christian. Different type of Christian. No, Apex Christianity is a term I've coined. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. And it was beautiful, and I thank God for putting me there and exposing me to that. It was a wonderful experience. I loved it until I didn't, and then when I didn't, I left. But I was like 20-something years old, and I finally broke away from the church. But I went to a lot of different things. I went all over the map. But no, I coined the term Apex Christianity. So yeah. It's really geopolitical Christianity, but I have a knack for creating multisyllabic words that nobody wants to say because they're 89 syllables. Like I created anthropotheology, and my friggin' dissertation committee couldn't even say it. So I have a knack for that because I love speaking. But apex Christianity is the best way I can describe it. It's just the Christianity that is at the top. It's where we can walk into the darkness and create the light because God has put the light in us. God has chosen us. We are the order of angels called virtues. We are referred to as the virtues. This just means we have a purpose here that God has called us to. That's a very high purpose. It's a very, it's a bigger challenge than most people can take, and but it's something God designed us for, and so we're good at it, and we do it, and we make things happen. So that's that. But yeah, but yeah, don't take my perspective on sexuality as gospel truth. It's just what I've been able to observe, and I think that if most people think about it, they'll go, oh, you know what, that actually makes sense. And a lot of what I'm saying is I'm just channeling. You know, I'm not actually coming up with this on my own. I have a team that supports me and guides me, and that team comes from the throne of the Most High God. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. So yes, you can experience God through your body, and the things that the church has taught you are evil and wrong and bad and dirty. Are actually avenues for experiencing God. Orgasm is one of those. And very few people even have experienced orgasm or even know what it is. And I thought I knew what orgasm was because I was married, because, my first partner was my wife. I was a virgin until I married. And which was, for me, that was right at that time. I had many opportunities to lose my virginity. God knows. And I didn't really get that close. There were two girls that I kissed, I think, that I kissed voluntarily. that I wasn't forced, like a lot of, not a lot. There were a couple of girls that force kissed me, like held me down and kissed me when I was a kid. So I was averse to that. But there were two girls that I kissed out of desire, and that was it. Clothes stayed on. It didn't go past that. I walked the walk. I lived it. I didn't just talk it. What's your opinion on what Catholics believe? I love the Catholics. Like I said, I love all the forms of Christianity, and I think that God has chosen all of the forms, all religions. I think there's a seed of truth, even if it's a tiny grain. I think Catholicism is a brilliant system if they could just clean up the stronghold that they have over the human spirit. The idea of the Catholic is the idea of the universal church. Cathos or Catholic just means the universal church. And I believe that it's important. I love that they worship the saints, or they don't worship the saints, but they pray to the saints. I love that they have angels. I love that there's all kinds of ways of helping people to feel some connection. But I think that, like with all forms of Christianity, that's a door. But you still have to walk through the house, meaning you have to have a relationship with God yourself. You have to have a one-on-one with God. So Catholicism is a great place to start. I like their system. I mean, I love that they have all these saints and all these, all these things they do. I love that they have stolen all these cathedrals from the real people that made them and have turned them into churches. Um, I like what the Catholics have done to some extent. I mean, again, the bloodshed and the child molestation, all that is terrible, awful, and I think that's awful. But outside of that, I think the Catholics are great. And I think Catholicism is a good system. But I would say don't stop there. Continue on your path with God. And I also love that they honor Mary. I think the Orthodox and the Catholics do a good job of that. I don't think the Protestants do a good enough job of honoring God's mother and or Jesus' mother, God's mother, Jesus' mother, depending on how you see God. Um, and I like that the Catholics and the Orthodox Christians still have the Mother of God, Mary, in their system. I love it. Yeah, but yeah, I've already talked about the things I have a problem with in Christianity, but yeah, I think the Catholics are great. So anyway, this has gone on long enough. If you don't have more questions, that's that. You can find God through your physical experience, through the physical world, and God is staring right back at us, happy to have a relationship with us. And so that's all I got to say about that. Thank you for joining K-Pop is Life and whoever else is in there. I think it's either two duels or something. Let's see what it. Thank you for talking about it. I'm a proud practicing Catholic, so that meant a lot to me. I'm glad. Yeah, I love the Catholics. I love the Catholics. Every once in a while, I'll go to church and I'll do the whole, you know, and I love Catholic churches. I mean, I think you guys have done a great job. The cathedrals, oh my God. See, again, the cathedrals, a great example of physical reality being manipulated and changed to remind people of the grandeur of God. Imagine if the Catholics were meeting in like a box or something. Like people, God's not real. This is an ugly little box. But you go to these cathedrals like Notre Dame and Catholic University, Catholic American University, you go and you're like, oh, God has to be real. Because who would spend all the time to make all this beauty and, So the Orthodox and the Catholics, I think you guys are holding it down. And if I ever recommend a form of Christianity to anyone, it's usually Orthodox first, then Catholicism. Protestantism is great. The evangelicals and the charismatics are awesome. But I don't know if that's for everybody. But again, Orthodox and Catholic isn't for everybody either. So I always do it on a, one-by-one basis. A box is crazy. I know, it is. It's like, can you guys respect God and like do a little better? Come on. Build a cathedral, like a beautiful gold gilded altar, like the ancients. The ancients understood how to respect God, like in the sense of they would build temples out of stone that would last forever. There are temples that are still around today that say, yeah, God is real. Look at this. Look at what God inspired us to do. And by the way, people did it out of love. They didn't, and we're taught that, they were slave labor. You're not going to get a cathedral out of slave labor. You're not going to get pyramids and temples in Egypt out of slave labor. You're not going to get that out of slave labor. Because the slaves are going to break down, they're going to die, they're going to feel terrible, it's going to be a terrible life. You're not going to get that from slaves. You get it from artisans. You get it from people that love God. I was in Mexico. I'll shut down after this. I'll close down after this. I was in Mexico in Dolores Hidalgo. No, San Miguel de Allende in the state of Guanajuato. And there's a cathedral there that I have photos of it. Oh, the priest did murals. It's the only muraled cathedral in all of North America. Anyway, cathedral. It's like, oh no, there are only three. Anyway, it's rare. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And he painted the entire ceiling with his blood. With his blood. Talk about dedication to God. And people don't get that. And I wouldn't do that. It's not for me. But talk about dedication. It's not a small place. And he did this over years. Like he just took his blood and painted it's beautiful. But again, you know, dedication to God. Like when you really love God, you really connect to God, you're driven to do things that no one else has done, and you change the world. You inspire people, you uplift people. That's what a chosen one does. He was a chosen one. I wouldn't have done that. I would never do that. But that's what he did. That's what God called him to do. And it's mind blowing. It's a little cryptic. It's a little morbid, but definitely it's like, okay, there's more to this life than just paying the bills 9 to 5. So anyway, I think the Catholic's great, Orthodox great. I think all of Christianity is great. All the religions have their place, but yeah, I think Catholics and Orthodox are killing it. So keep making it happen, Catholics. All right. K-pop is life. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for the engagement. I'm gonna pop off now. Love you. God bless. Stay Apex.